Yes, hello and welcome to A Celtic World, Celtic YouTube channel that connects fans all over the planet, from Ecclefechan to Equatorial Guinea, from Milgai to Miami, wherever you happen to find yourself in this green oasis of life in the cosmos, you're part of A Celtic World. And here are the times we are on. Haven't shown this for a while. Check those out, see what that means to you. We have people in Sydney, well, not Seoul, but in South Korea tonight. Indeed. We got Brian in Ireland and me in Malaysia, so I'm in the Singapore time zone, so quite a few represented. So let's say hello to our august members. Stephen in Australia, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, Gav. It's been a bit of a traumatic few days after being informed on social media last week that we were all virgins. I've had to break the news to my children that I cannot possibly be their biological father.
How'd they take it?
Actually, they were quite happy. I don't know why. They always suspected, I feel.
There's Paul from Singapore checking in. Who else do we have then? Dano's in Korea and Gwangju. How are things there?
Good. Starting a new job as the music director at this new live venue here in downtown Gwangju. So it has been manic the last couple of weeks since I got back from the U.S., but it's been great. So really excited about this new project and a new job. And yeah, been going good. Can't say the same for the Tims, though, man. Can't say the same for the boys. Been tough.
I wonder is anyone picking up the sound of cats behind me? Can you hear cats screeching?
No, not really. Ever so faintly.
There's some cats screeching. There's the cats around here certainly aren't virgins, and someone else who certainly isn't a virgin is Brian from Ireland. How's it going, Brian?
Well, I was up to about 1992 or so. No, going grand. My two dogs snoring behind me. I hope the viewers have recovered from the watch along, myself and Gav on Saturday.
I haven't. Have you?
It was funny. Well, I was about 20 seconds behind Gav, and Gav was trying his best, God love him, not to appear excited or whatever else. So it was like Gav was like, and then I was like, about 10 seconds later. But yeah, good crack. Very professional, sorry, Gav, as I mess up your studio. But all good. All good.
I mean, dogs snoring, cats banging in the background. We're off to a good start here, boys. This is good stuff.
And we've an incredibly exciting match to talk about. Action-packed, full of amazing goals and sweeping moves. And our elite manager really imposing himself on this Mickey Mouse League. So let's get on with that. Shall we talk about the game? That'll be fun. Because, every Celtic channel at the moment is talking about the same things. It's the same gurning that's going on. So obviously we're going to do our fair share of gurning on this show. But, it might be nicer just to concentrate on the football for a bit before we get into the ramifications of it all and who's to blame and what can we expect for the rest of the season. So, let's start with that. Starting lineup, Stephen, any surprises here or anything give you the fear?
Well, the whole thing gave me the fear, but no real surprises. I think I mentioned last week I expected Bernabei to get the nod again at left back. A lot of people were expecting Scales to move across one and maybe Stephen Welsh to start at centre half. But if you're not going to do that against Ross County at home with Cameron Carter-Vickers available, then you're certainly not going to do it away to Aberdeen. So I fully expected the Bernabei to get the nod again. And everything else, the team was the same from the past weekend. Kind of half a notion that maybe he would have started Nicholas Kuhn in front of Abada or Palmer, really. But he resisted that temptation and left him on the bench. So no real surprises.
Well, so as you say, on the bench, you got Kuhn, Ida, and then the two young fellas. Bata, he of the questionable attitude, and Kelly of the outstanding attitude, according to our manager. Above every word we hang. All right, Dano. So the game got underway. How are you feeling? As the first sort of ticked back?
I mean, it was. I watched this afterwards, right? I watched it on Sunday. I'm working on Saturday nights, and it was just dreadful, man. It was just dreadful, plotting, nothing of a game, man. And we're trying to dig ourselves. I think this team, a lot of times when we're trying to dig ourselves out, we start to play some pretty amazing football. That definitely wasn't the case. I mean, what do we have? 22 shots overall and 4 on goal. I mean, it was pretty poor, man. So yeah, bad start. Just bad. I don't know. I kind of feel like I wasted 2 hours of my Sunday.
I mean, it wasn't that bad a start. I didn't think. I thought we knocked it about okay. It looked pretty good. Created a reasonable number of chances in the first half.
Build-up play was good. We just didn't have any finishing on the day. But that's the whole thing with Rodgers' team this year. It's really great build-up play. We're just passing it around and zipping it along the pitch. And then I don't know, the last 6 games, I would say it hasn't resulted in much. So yeah, I don't know what they got to do, but it was pretty poor overall, for sure.
Well, I'm going to unmute Brian here, so because I can hear that.
The dog.
Sure that's the dog. Unless you have some sort of digestive issue that you haven't told us about.
Yeah. Some going on there.
Brian, the first half wasn't. There's Kaiser saying, "What's the noise? Someone got an upset tummy." That's a nicer way of putting it.
Oh no!
There's a snoring dog. Only the highest levels of professionalism here.
I mean, that's the cleanest language that Kaiser's used in a while. It's pretty amazing.
Brian, talk us through the events of the first half. Talk us through the highlights.
The highlights was ourselves debating the offside Palma goal. I think that was about the highlights, really. Shocking, just terrible performance. Just Abada might as well not have been there. Palma just prancing about like he doesn't own the place, and Bernabei, well, no said about him the better.
Yeah.
Well, there was Palma's offside goal. O'Reilly had a chance where he tried to place it in the top corner. There was another incident where the keeper punched it out to Bernardo, who took a touch and then tried to lift it over everyone into the goal, but it hit the crossbar. And then there was Bernabei had a snapshot at the far post after it came off a defender. So, Stephen, 4 incidents there that on another day something might have happened. Were you despairing at halftime, or were you thinking things were going not too bad?
No, I mean, I thought the first half was fine. I mean, I wouldn't go any further than that. It was just fine. But you're right. We could have and should have been at least 3 goals up. The incidents you mentioned, there was also one with Palma, who had almost an open goal and leaned back and hit the top of the bar. You had the offside goal, which was clearly offside, but Abada should have scored. He's 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. He's got to put that away. And then you had the other chances we mentioned, one with Bernardo, and we peppered their goal. And the fact that Aberdeen didn't have a single touch in our box in the first 45 minutes just kind of showed how we were dominating the game. And when we went in at half time, I did have the fear because we have a sort of habit of doing this, like putting a really good performance in one half and being absolutely dreadful the next half. But as far as chance creation goes, I think we've done okay in the first half, to be honest. And we should have been. The game should have been out of sight.
Well, it's a common story, isn't it? Not taking our chances. It's a common story of this season and before that.
Yes.
But what's an even more common story is then just us being absolute garbage and not being able to keep imposing ourselves on the game and not find a way through and allow other teams to look good. That's what happened in the second half, isn't it, Daniel? Aberdeen started to really play.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Aberdeen started coming at us, and it just looked like we didn't really have a plan for how to react. And that's the problem when you don't take your chances. The other team is gaining confidence with each chance that you blow. And let's face it, that's what happened in the first half. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I thought, it was, if you're a neutral, overall, it was a better game. Aberdeen came out with kind of the bit between their teeth, but still didn't create a lot of chances. It's kind of pathetic we even gave up one goal. But those are the breaks, man. And Pittodrie always strikes me as a tricky place for the Celtics to play. So I don't know. It was just one of those days, man.
Just one of those days. We can't just write it off as just one of those days, though. What was Rodgers saying at halftime, Brian? What was his inspirational Churchillian team talk?
I don't know what he said at halftime, but I don't think he can. I think it's something as Stephen said a couple of weeks ago, that he reckons Rodgers is going to be gone. I'm actually now believing that. I really am thinking to myself, that's him. They're not backing him. They didn't back him in the window. I don't know. I don't know. I think the fact that halftime team talk didn't really change it. Palmer's still on the pitch. Abada's still on the pitch. Didn't do anything to change it up really. Till, was it 67 minutes or no, 59 minutes? Was it? He changed it up.
Yeah, that triple substitution.
Yeah, I think he's run out of. He can't bollock them out anymore. He can't motivate.
Well,
I don't know.
We're going to talk more about where we are with Rodgers later. Let's sort of stick to the game for now. Stephen, their goal. Now, a series of unfortunate events. Where do you apportion blame?
There's plenty to go around. First of all, it's Bernabei for a terrible pass into I think it was Bernardo. It was just totally inaccurate and allowed the defender to get in and nick the ball away. Then it was Bernabei again for just jogging back and not busting his arse to get back in and get back into defence. Then it was Palmer with a really half-assed attempt to tackle the guy. And then after that, the two centre halves are too far apart. Scales is miles away from Nawrocki. And Miovski just gets free and he stands up. Nawrocki, and I don't know. I've heard a lot of people defending Nawrocki because Miovski's a good player and it was a great finish. But I think he needs to be showing him on the outside. Miovski's desperate to get that ball onto his left foot. And he made it easier for him. He dropped his shoulders as if he was going to the right, and Nawrocki bought it and then was off balance and can only throw a leg out to try and stop the shot. But two things: one, he should have just stood up and showed him on the outside because then he's got less chance of scoring. And two, Scales should be closer. He should have been closer to him so that if he had gone inside on his left foot, Scales has then got a chance to make a challenge or close down the shot. So it all starts with Bernabei, who I've just had enough of. I just don't want to see him ever again, and I suspect we might not. And Palma as well, and just a catastrophe of errors. And seen a few people saying today, just seemed to be no desire to stop that goal being scored. I just think if Carl Stalfelt was there, he would have threw himself in front of the shot. If Maeda even was playing, he would have bust a gut to get to track the guy, to track the runners forward. It just seems to be a general malaise through the team, and you could attribute it to any one of those people. But I think Bernabei takes the bulk of the blame for just a half-assed pass into Bernardo and then not even trying to get back into position.
Yeah,
those two wee mustachioed Hispanic types aren't cut out for the Scottish game.
John Terry lookalike.
Right? Did you? I don't know if anyone came across this, but during the watch along, Brian tried to tell me that Bernabei resembles John Terry about the eyes.
He
Do you
does.
see any physical resemblance whatsoever?
No. Not no. No. Although I haven't deeply analyzed the eyes of either gentleman, but yeah, I'm not seeing it. No.
No.
Well,
Okay.
John Terry has the dead eyes of a Cold Stone killer, whereas Bernabé's doesn't look like that. Anyway, another thing that happened in the watch along is that Brian was cheering on Nawrocki for getting a yellow card in the first half for getting stuck in there. Get in there, son.
Yeah.
That was
That came back to bite us.
It did. It did. That was the old Celtic down me, you know. No, it did come back to bite us because he's walking the tightrope for so long. After, what was it, 20, 25 minutes he got the booking. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that gets back to Steven's point, you know. I mean, especially if you're under the cosh, force him to the outside. Right? I mean, that's like kind of the safer thing to do in that scenario as far as maybe getting a foul or something like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of errors that happen in that sequence, but Bernabé is definitely the guy to blame. I mean,
his first booking was never a booking. It was a ridiculous decision by the referee. I can understand people saying he should have got a second yellow for the chance in the second half, but when you consider what he'd been booked for in the first place, it was just a nothing tackle he's booked him for. So, like, I don't have an issue with it. I think one evened out the other, to be honest.
Yeah.
So what else happened in the second half? Well, we scored, obviously. Our two new players getting a goal and an assist between them. They combined for that goal, which was nice. O'Reilly hit the post. Another nice little assist from Ida. And then they started getting more into the game, didn't they? They were through down the middle. Remember that ball down the middle? And I was shouting at the time, like, where's the keeper? Eventually, Joe Hart comes onto the screen a bit late, but he makes the shot. He blocks it. He blocks the shot. And then the follow-up went over the bar. So then Shinnie was through, should have scored, really. Clean through, point blank, him and Hart. Hart saved again. And they had a goal disallowed for offside. So, I mean, it could have been worse. Could have been better.
Dicey. Yeah. Yeah.
But I felt as if, I just felt as if after we equalised, I didn't think we ever looked like scoring the winner. They didn't seem to be, we didn't have their goal under siege. And we had a couple of half chances, but nothing really. And that's really been the story of the season when we're chasing games. And we don't seem to be able to put teams under any sustained pressure. And you're right, Gav, Aberdeen had probably the better chances in the last 15 minutes of the game. And probably, by the end of the game, I was actually a little bit relieved that we didn't lose because, I know Brendan said in his post-match interview that it was 2 points dropped, but it could have been 3 points dropped really, really easily. And I don't know how Shinnie missed that one. That was an absolute sitter. And it just fell to a guy who's defensively minded and shite. And we're very fortunate in that because a half-decent player who was even a modicum of footballer talent would have stuck that away. And then we'd be moaning, we'd be even more gunning going on social media. So, terrible second half performance. We were lucky out a draw at the end of the day.
Well, Stephen, it's time for your regulation look-alike comment. Stephen looks like Danny McGrain's better-looking younger brother.
I'm glad he said younger brother there. That would have been much worse if he'd left that out.
Yeah,
I can't let that one go without showing this one. Gav, you'd make a great Bond villain. All you need is a cat. Well, I do have a third nipple. I can show you that if you wanted. But
true.
The times we have. Well, so does anyone get pass marks then? From who gets pass marks from our team, and who were you particularly disappointed with? I see O'Reilly getting plenty of stick in the comments.
I think the two wingers have to be front and centre when the abuse was getting dished out. Both of them were just garbage. Abada and Palmer, and they've been that way for the last few games, and I think that's where a lot of our problems are coming from. They're just no ability at all to go on the outside. All they ever do is cut back inside and run into traffic, and it's just it's abominable to watch. And I just don't know. I can't believe they've been told to do that. But if they are, that's a joke as well. And I know we got our goal from Nicholas Kuhn coming inside and driving across the box, but most of the time Palmer and Abada were just running into traffic and losing possession. So it's just so frustrating to watch. But on your point, I don't think anybody gets past marks. You can maybe say the substitutes because they weren't on the pitch long enough. I think Ida done okay. He had a few nice touches, nice layoffs, as you mentioned. Kuhn, I think, I wasn't terribly excited by anything he did, but he did look a little bit more direct. So I guess those guys get pass marks, but nobody else.
Dear, oh dear. Anything else to add there, Dan O'Brien, about individual player performances? Joe Hart.
Yeah, Joe Hart.
He produced the goods on a couple of occasions.
Joe Hart, I think, gets a pass from me.
Although it wasn't flawless.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But yeah, Joe Hart, I think, gets a pass. And O'Reilly's been so good this year. I'm going to give him a pass, even though he definitely had a bad game. I mean, bad. But yeah, the wingers were awful, man. I mean, seriously. Joe had nothing to go off of. I mean, it was just, there's nothing getting fed into the middle. Nothing. It's just really bad. And Palma is super streaky. I mean, he has a game or two that are just awful to watch, and then he goes into a game or two where he's just lights out, getting an assist and a goal. But man, last weekend was not that day.
I think Dano, it's all about form, and obviously Palma's not on form, so he needs to be benched or even
the last couple of games he's been awful, man, awful.
Missing those penalties, and then just the moustache. I would have gassed him for the moustache alone, personally, but him and Abada have just empty jerseys, as well as Kyogo, unfortunately. Well, if they're not getting the service up to him, he can't really do too much.
Yeah, right.
But what was the crack? Anyone see the thing about Bernardo jumping up and down on the sidelines? He was.
Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself. That might come up later.
Sorry.
That might come up later.
Yeah, the thing is about the wingers is you can have one winger who comes inside most of the time, and that was the case when Brendan had Scott Sinclair playing for him in his first spell. But you Paddy Roberts on the other side who could take a man on the outside and get to the byline. And similarly, last year you had Jota doing that on one side of the field, and then Abada on the other side just getting into the back post. And Maeda as well on occasion, but you can't if you've got two wingers who just won't beat a man on the outside and just keep coming inside all the time. But Aberdeen were quite happy with that. They just flooded the midfield with bodies, and they knew if you run in, it's going to have to be an amazing bit of skill to dribble through all those guys. And 99% of the time, it just falls down and we lose possession.
And I heard other people saying that with Maeda with Palma always cutting inside, having Bernabé behind him, he would offer the width and to give us a bit of width. But he too was cutting in. And then we've got our three midfielders are all centrally located, and we're just not using the pitch at all. It's very annoying. Yeah. And then it's harder to get to pass accurately when there's so many limbs around. So it's a little bit of a nightmare. Right, Frank Kennedy. All right, so that was a game. I mean, I don't suppose we can talk about it all day. Let's talk about what's coming up. One of the questions here: are we going to get better? Says Craig A. Or is the malaise deeper than we fear? We keep hoping it's a glitch, but we've had so many now. I'll keep the faith, but it's tough to watch. I think that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Paul on the last show was very confident that look, we have the better squad and the better manager, and we should win the league. Right? I agree, we have the better squad, but do we really have the better manager? We have the manager with the better CV, sure, but Mike Tyson has a great CV. But you don't see him stepping into the ring anymore. So, are we all starting to wonder whether Rodgers still has it?
I think it's the
Even
motivation.
as defenders. Go ahead, Brian.
Can he motivate the team? Can he motivate them? I think he's been up and down. He's been even look at the start of the season when he played Turnbull instead of Hatate, and not got Hatate's nose out of joint, and then eventually signed a 5-year deal, and then Hatate's our man. I don't know. I think the players maybe just go, listen. He said this. It's the same kind of stuff he's saying all the time. Quality and desire and all this. And the players are probably just sitting, I've heard this shit back in August. I've heard this back in September. I've heard this back in December. And even Navrachki, when he says, oh, he'll be an important player for us the second half of the season, he was bummed out. And I just don't think he... I'm looking at him going, I can't wait till Taylor gets back. I mean, that's how bad I'm feeling at the minute. And I was looking Yang, Maida, how obviously Atate's injured, but again, the bench wasn't great. I think he's just the players have maybe. Could Kennedy do something? I don't know. We'll discuss that, I'm sure, at a later date. But I just think the players are not motivated by him anymore. I even Kalmack sitting on the round the head down. I don't know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait for players to come back and save the day, or new players, really. I don't think, we were waiting for CCV and Hatate to come back. That's not happening. Now Yang's had a good game for South Korea. I'm sure Dano was all over that. They're all saying, oh, wait till he gets back to Celtic. He's going to be like a new signing. Well, they're not all saying that, but I heard some people saying if we can harness his abilities the way South Korea does, we've got a player in our hands. Maeda now, people are hanging their hopes on. Abada's been a damp squib so far. So, Stephen, is it down to anybody else but Brendan to get his finger out at this stage of the season? The window's gone.
Yeah, like I'm going to go into bat for Brendan a little bit here. I'm not sure if there's too much more he can do. You saw from the first, we spoke about this earlier. The first 45 minutes was fine. So the way he set out the team, the shape of the team, the way he motivated them, the tactics he gave them, all worked fine. And the game should be out of sight by half time. Then it comes down to individual errors. And it's individual player performances that are letting us down time and time again. Now we don't have the squad to drop these players. We don't have options, and it's just poor from players. If you look at the team, we always get comparisons with Angie's team from last year, and people say, "Oh, we've only lost Jota and Moy from that team," but that's not really true, is it? Because we've lost Jota, we've lost Moy. We're also missing Cameron Carter-Vickers just now. We're missing Rio Hatate. Maeda's away at the World Cup. So that's really about, if you take like 6 players out of Angie's team from last year, I think you would probably have found that the performances were would have been just as insipid as we saw towards the end of the season. Now I think Rodgers is not entirely blameless in all this. Sometimes his substitutions are a bit mystifying and. But I don't understand a lot of the omissions from the team and guys not getting picked and just getting bombed out, and the Lagerbielke thing will be forever a mystery to me. But I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what else he can do, except for send them out with the correct formation, the correct tactics, and then it's down to the players. And if they're missing chances left, right, and centre, which they are, and they have in both of the last 2 games, then that's down to them. That's down to the players and the squad and the level of ability in the squad.
Well, another thing that was mentioned, Daniel, we'll come to you on this, is that across the city, Philippe Clement has been getting a tune out of a pretty crap squad that may have been significantly improved in the window. So, he's getting a tune out of the players that are at his disposal. I think it's likely that Rangers are going to be the top of the league very soon. How will Rodgers and the players react to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main question. But also, this is a part of the season that we've been looking forward to. I'm going to kind of go to bat for Rodgers on this too, because this is a part of the season that ever since summer we've been looking at with the Asian Cup going on and saying this is going to be, that part of the season is going to be rough if we don't get anybody. And, you know, lo and behold, it's definitely kind of panned out that way. So I'm not surprised that we're kind of sputtering a little bit right now, especially missing, you know, some players that prove very useful, especially as subs. And, you know, we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But Rodgers definitely needs to get a tune out of these players like the guy across the city for sure, because they're rolling right now.
Love it. Sorry, but slow possession style is not good. It's so easy for opposing teams to read our game. Similar point, slow play just allows teams to keep their defensive play intact. We need quicker passing and more guile to make opposing teams lose their shape.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing that's been driving me crazy all year. And we've talked about it again and again and again, right? Relying on the individual brilliance to score goals. It doesn't seem like our tactics are really creating a lot of opportunity, like Edge did. But I don't know. This just felt like another one of those games under Rodgers where we were relying on somebody, you know, to shine and come through for us, but nothing really happened. So I don't know. They just don't seem to be gelling like you would want them to at this point.
The only thing, Dano, I would say, I do still fancy us on a head-to-head in a big game.
Yeah,
although
I do too.
Maybe the guys don't see away to Aberdeen as a big game. But if when are we due to play the other lot? Is it the fourth week of March?
Something like that.
So yeah, I think we'll win.
Well, that counts for fuck all if we're losing against the shit teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't drop points against these guys.
Yeah.
But, you know, historically, and again, in Rodgers' defense, Pittodrie can be just a weird place for Celtic to go and play a game, man. So, I mean, historically. So, I don't know. This was going to be kind of tough sledding at the start of the year. I mean, we were talking about it back in July or August, and it's kind of panned out that way. But the board's inactivity doesn't really help.
Well,
we'll see what happens when we got everyone back.
That underpins everything. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, the time for really focusing on that, from my point of view as a distant fan anyway, who can't really affect anything on the ground, was the window. Once the window's closed, now it's back to the games. It's come on, manager, come on, players, do your best.
Right.
Stephen, if you're in the hot seat, what sort of tactical changes would you make? We were told Rodgers was a tactical wizard. He'll do in-game management in a way that Ange wasn't capable of. You know, you're going to see him be an elite level manager. He's done it in one game, one of the European games, to get a point at home.
Well, he did it in the weekend as well. When he brought Ida on and kept Kyogo, he dropped Kyogo back into a sort of number 10 position and put Kyogo up front. Ida. So that was a tactical change. And at the end of the day, he made that change. I don't think we looked much better, but we scored a goal. So you've got to give him that. You've got to give him that. He made the change and we got the equaliser. So, and everybody, I've heard a lot of people, talking about how Ida was had a decent game. Well, I've seen a few touches and spells, but not really anything to hang your hat on. And he certainly doesn't look like a main striker. If you're going to play Ida, I think you have to change your formation. But he's done it many times in many games this season, both domestically and in Europe. But I'll get back to the point again I keep making. The first 45 minutes were fine and everything was great. I keep hearing a lot about slow possession football, but there was no slow possession football in the first half. We were zipping the ball around at pace and we got in behind them a number of times. We just couldn't execute. And that comes down to individual players and individual moments. And I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know what gets said in the dressing room and whether he's not good at motivating or not. You know, that's a charge that maybe be levelled at Rodgers. But the fact of the matter is the squad just isn't good enough, and we're missing too many good players from a squad that can't afford to miss any good players. We need all of our good players to be on the pitch, and I'm pessimistic about the rest of the season. And I think the Rio Hatate injury is a disaster for us, just an absolute disaster. The fact that he's going to be out for the next 5 or 6 weeks, he probably won't play the next time we play the Huns, and that's a disaster for us, because that's a guy you can have on the bench to bring off the bench and make a real change in a game, make a real impact, or you can have him on from the start and have Matt O'Reilly on the bench to come on and make a real impact. But at the moment, we're backing guys like Rocco Vata on to try and make an impact on the game. And if you don't bring him on, it's Soden Thiago home. We just don't have the quality of player, the quality of squad required to win these games. It's as simple as that. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to hear that, but if you look at the players that are missing from last year's team, and if you took them out of last year's team, I think you'd be looking at similar performances.
The other thing that's really disappointing about Rio is I think it's pretty much proven here that he's totally injury prone. And as far as like reselling him, that's a killer on the value as well. Because, as far as like our big assets at the start of the season, you would say, yeah, Rio's going to probably, if he gets sold on, he's going to get sold for like a good chunk of change. But this year, he's now got the label, like, definitely injury prone.
And so, CCV.
Yeah. Not as badly as Rio though, man.
But yeah, of course. Yeah.
Rio, I mean, how many 5-6 weeks knocks is this going to be, man? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So it's a bummer, man.
I mean, how optimistic or pessimistic are you, Dano, for the rest of the season? And of course, don't forget, we have a tricky cup game coming up.
Yeah. I'm 50-50. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm not totally pessimistic right now, but it's starting to build. I mean, in a 6-week stretch, 6-game stretch where we're playing very, very subpar, at least by our standards, football in the domestic league is definitely worrying. Excuse me. And it's definitely worrying. And now the pressure's on. The angst of the fans is getting more severe, and we've got to put out a good performance against one of these, so-called we teams to get things back on track, man.
I mean, certainly Shankland wouldn't have missed what Shinnie missed, as Stephen said earlier on. All his, when we're away to Hearts.
We were lucky. Yeah, man, we were so lucky with that Shinnie not scoring that goal. It was lucky, seriously.
Can anyone foresee Rodgers getting the boot this season?
Yes.
Before it's over.
I could see it happen.
Yes, I think I said it last week, Gav. I think we're in the end game now for Rodgers. I think if we drop anything at Hibs on Wednesday night and then go out the cup to St Mirren on Saturday, I think that'll be it for him. I don't think he'll be there after that. Whether he walks of his own volition or whether they sack him. I think that will be it, and I can see a situation. But that again, just come back to the comment you brought up from Martin there. If we sack Brendan Rodgers, you are writing off this season completely, because who's going to come in and take his place? That's the question. If somebody's saying to me we need to get rid of Brendan Rodgers, who's going to come in and take his place? Because the reality is that it's going to be John Kennedy till the end of the season, right? And John Kennedy, we know John Kennedy is not capable of being the manager of Celtic. We've seen it before in the COVID season when he took over Neil Lennon's side and made them worse. So what we've got in the summer, we've already got a lot of business to do in the transfer window. Now, if you add into that, we're looking for a new manager, and we're notoriously slow at appointing managers. If Brendan Rodgers leaves or is sacked, the season, we might as well just draw the curtain down on it, because the season's over for us if Brendan goes. So the only thing we can do is hope that Maeda coming back makes a difference, and I think it will. I think we look at a different team when Maeda's playing, albeit there's questions about his his control and his
Ability to
awareness
kick a
and all
ball.
that, but the energy he brings to the team just makes us a totally different team completely. So we just need to hope that we can come out of this slump and put a run of wins together.
Also, Stephen, I think, remember when Maida came back from the World Cup, he had that energy, and he seems to learn a lot when he's away from Celtic Park. He's one of these people. He comes back, he'd be re-energized, he'd be like a new player almost.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm hoping. Yeah,
like a new signing.
like a
Here's
new
the thing I
sign.
want to talk about, actually. Sorry, not that. Lovett's comment. Can actually see the panic in Rodgers' recent pressers after our 2 bad performances lately. There's been a lot of talk about Rodgers' press conferences and what he says and what he doesn't say, and it's all been parsed to within an inch of its life. But his comments are a bit like the horoscopes, aren't they? There's something for anyone to latch on to as their truth.
Yeah.
In fact, what he said was very much him trying to walk the line, wasn't it? Trying to keep everyone happy. He agrees with supporters. But we have to spend more money and make deals happen. And his job as manager is to push for that and try and get the higher ups on the same page. He's kind of talking about it like it's that age-old tension between board and manager in every club. It's kind of what he was trying to say, I think. But he reckons everyone at Celtic's pulling the same direction. They all agree there's no point buying more projects. You got to get a few guys in with a bit of experience. And of course, January's a tough window. So I think it's natural enough for people to see elements of what he said being particularly telling compared to others. So let's do that. Stephen, what was the most telling bit of that for you?
Well, I mean, you've already mentioned it when he said we need to be braver in the transfer market. Now, that's him just saying we need to be prepared to spend more money and prepared to take our wage level up to the next level. We're messing around at the same transfer values we have been for between 5 and 10 years. And obviously the quality of players you get in that price range now is just deteriorated to the point where they're not good enough to play for Celtic. And we have to learn to take that step. Now, whether or not, I just don't think we've got the people, the right people in the right places to make that happen. I don't think we've got the right scouting structures, because obviously it's a bigger risk when you spend more money on a player, but you have to back your data analysis, you have to back your scouting people, you have to back your recruitment guys to make that a calculated risk and make it smallest as you can. And I think that's where we're lacking. We don't have the people there to make that a reality. So I think that was Brendan just basically saying, that I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this. And Ange said something similar towards the end of his first transfer window when he said we were taking too long to get deals done. Unfortunately for him, Peter Law wasn't around at the time, so people actually listened to that, and we did get some deals done. But whether or not anybody's listening to Rodgers now, I'm not too sure. But that was the thing that stood out to me.
Okay, he did definitely say that, but Dano, did he not try and couch it in sort of soft terms, almost as if to say it's the same wherever you go? The manager always wants more money spent on players, better players. And sometimes things aren't possible. Sometimes, a lot of work goes into it, but the other club don't let it happen. And January is a difficult window, but we're all pulling in the same direction. He wasn't exactly hanging the club out to dry in no uncertain terms, or was he?
I think it goes back to what you said, Gav. I mean, generally what he says almost all the time is kind of saying nothing while sounding like he's saying something. I didn't take much from what he said there. I mean, it's so couched in qualifiers and other types of things. This happens at every club, blah, 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 blah. He's definitely walking a tightrope there because, he knows the supporters are upset. He is kind of signaling that, he's not happy with it. But, he has to kind of qualify that because he's still the manager. He doesn't want to really piss off the people that write his paychecks. So I don't know. I didn't take much meaning at all from anything he said. to be perfectly fair.
Brian, do you want to disagree and say
Well-
you heard something loud and clear?
I just don't. Brendan's facial expressions don't really change whether he's happy or sad or anything. It's just
Yeah.
harder to read, and he's being calculated, and he's trying to keep everybody happy and all the rest of it. I've been listening to some other Celtic information, and I think we're going to sell the club. I think we're fattening the club up to get it sold on. And we're sitting at 72 million in the coffers. We haven't had the December sort of 6 monthly statement yet. That'll hopefully swell the coffers to about 85, 90 mil. And then with the season ticket books going, I think by whoever gets through the Champions League, 60 million quid will be up for sale. And look at even Turnbull getting off the wage bill, 21k, Mikey Johnson 18. The fact he didn't spend any money, maybe Rodgers was being, right, Brendan, the first year, we're not going to give you too much, just do what you can do to get by. And then we're going to hopefully sell the club. And then you can have your war chest. Because he kept going on about, I'm here for the 3 years, I'm here for the 3 years. And, it's almost like, January's a notorious window, it's a very difficult window to get people through. And I'm buying into the Celtic model and all the rest of it. I could be whistling Dixie, but stranger things have happened.
Interesting. Well, there's a lot of people saying that, Desmonds needs to go. He hasn't invested. It's a play thing. He'd rather play golf with what's his name? Over in America, wherever he is.
Well, Desmond's always said that he's never lost money. Anything he's ever come into, he's always made money on it. And I'm just thinking now, has he just had enough? Has he had enough of the grief and can't be arsed kind of thing? Out playing golf whenever it's the last day, the transfer window just doesn't really show any kind of interest. And
the thing about Desmond is he never any intention of being such a large player at Celtic. He was invited onto the board by Fergus McCann to just put a little bit of money in. And then when Fergus left, he underwrote a share issue, which was undersubscribed, and he ended up buying a big ton of the shares and ended up as something like he's got, I don't know, a 30-odd% shareholding now. So that was never his intention, and that was round about the time when there was strong rumours that Celtic were going to join the English Premier League. So if that had happened, the value of Celtic would have rocketed, and Desmond would have made himself a tidy sum. Now, as it happens, as the share price is much lower than what it was when he bought his shares. So if he sold his shares now, it's a nominal loss to him, and he's never going to do that. He wants to keep a hold of Celtic or keep a hold of his shares anyway, until there's some sort of change in the European structure, which increases the value of the club greatly. And then I'm quite sure that he'll be quite happy to sell his shares if he's making a bit of money out of it. But he's not the type he just doesn't, as you said, Brian, he never ever loses money on deals. That's why. And he runs the club, he keeps his guys in key positions at the club just to keep us on an even keel, stop us going into debt, stop us getting into financial trouble without any real, ambition for football achievements. And I think that's, I do agree. I don't think while Desmond is still got that position of power at the club, and the Laws, junior and senior, are both in positions of power there, I just don't think anything's going to change. But how we achieve that change is going to be very difficult.
I think the financial fair play thing always will come into it. And we are, saw a tweet the other day that Peter Lawwell has been charged by financial fair play for not spending any money, which I thought was quite funny. But we are, we are in decent financial shape. Maybe that's what's on the horizon. It's easier to let your son know that you're out of a job, and as Gordon Strachan would say, my two sons are going to be out of jobs, and I don't know who buys us, but I do think that it could be a reason why we're fattening the cow up, so to speak.
Anybody that buys Celtic now, then the club value is something like 120 million or something, and we've got close to 100 million in cash. So you're buying in 120 million pound club with 100 million pounds in cash. I mean, that's just free money, isn't it? To me, I mean, I don't know why. I would have thought Celtic would be an excellent proposition for someone at the moment with that kind of money, because you can double your money almost overnight.
Well, I've heard some talk that that whole 70 million profit that was declared recently isn't just cash sitting in the bank. A lot of that has been flowing out in wages and Barrafield and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that number would have declined a fair bit. But certainly, Stephen, I mean, you and I can put our heads together and sort of see how much we can each come up with, and maybe bring another couple in and see if we can afford it. How are your finances looking?
I know a man who knows a man. I'm sure we could work something out. What would be safe hands then?
Yeah.
Dear, dear. All right. So, well, let's wrap it up with our Celtic socials, shall we? Something funny has happened. I used to have quite a few on the page, but now I don't. So take your time to discuss these two. Whose is that one? First of all,
that's my one. Well, it's not my one. I found this
Okay,
something you wouldn't see every day. Ronaldinho on the backdrop of. Anybody guess where that is?
Is that Tannadice?
It is indeed. Just a quite unlikely picture. I think didn't Ronaldo play at Dalymount or somewhere like that? Didn't Real Madrid play Shamrock Rovers, or not Shamrock? They played a team from Dublin anyway in a pre-season, and you had Zidane on the sidelines and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Look at the state. It's like he's probably going, "What the hell am I? I still have those shorts. Yeah, like the Barcelona shorts." Yeah, that was just something funny.
well, of course, Ronaldinho presumably came from like very humble beginnings in Brazil. So, the context that those guys played football in when they were young is no laughing matter. He was one of my favorite players of all time, I have to say.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And then this is something that was alluded to earlier. I think, Stephen, this is yours.
Yeah, so this is Paulo Bernardo after being substituted while he's sitting on the bench. It looks as if someone's just told him he's not allowed to stay up and watch the highlights tonight. He has to go to his bed early because he's got to go to church in the morning. That's like a kind of typical reaction.
It's a wee boy tantrum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a sort of funny thing from a very desperately unfunny day.
Hey, Gav, I kind of sent you.
There's a couple of other things here that I wanted to. Yeah.
I sent you a little picture on WhatsApp. I'm kind of reprogramming my social shout out. This kind of dropped to me like a minute ago. But
you don't want to do the one that you had?
Yeah, no, that's okay.
You can do the one you had, which is this.
I do want to shout out Seltzer here, man. Just a great channel on YouTube. I really love how Quinny breaks down like the tactics and all that kind of stuff every week, especially if you didn't have time or don't have the time to watch like the full game. He breaks it down really well, and it's always done with a really good sense of humor. So wanted to give Quinny a shout out over at Seltzer here, man.
He's got a cool looking studio there, doesn't he?
He does, man. He really does it up well. I mean, yeah, the background is pretty amazing. So he's doing a professional job for sure. And yeah, good channel, man.
Must have taken a few tips from us.
Yeah. Yes, the lighting specialists.
All right. I just wanted to draw attention to some good news. We mentioned earlier that Yang is doing well in the Asian Cup. Quan, of course, is tearing it up at St Mirren. He's Celtic's best player currently. And this guy apparently is doing well. Bosun Lawal. Superb performance from our number 5. And you see the comment there. That's Paul McGinley's tweet. Will be interesting to see if he features next season. And there's a response there from the Hoops saying, hopefully we realise he's a midfielder and not a centre-back. But he's doing very well. So it's nice to see a couple of players out on loan doing something.
Well, apparently he came to Celtic as a midfielder, Laval. And our youth coaches tried to convert him into a centre-half. But he was originally a midfielder. And the comment about how well he's doing in midfield came from ex-Hun Charlie Adams, who's the coach at Fleetwood at the moment. So it will be interesting to see if he can make the transition into midfield, because he's certainly a big lump of a guy. And we've spoke a lot about a lack of physicality in the team, and he would certainly solve that issue.
So would Quan. The guy is a horse, man. I really don't know why he didn't get any playing time. It just drives me crazy. The manager didn't see anything in training, whatever. Give him a crack, man.
He played half a game in a friendly against Bilbao pre-season, and he genuinely did look like a competition winner who'd never played a game of football in his life. So I think that was where it all went wrong for him to start with at Celtic. But I mean, these things can be reset, and his Celtic career can be reset by a few months at St Mirren, and he certainly looks as if he's playing quite well. Yeah.
Can he play against us, Stephen? In the cup? No, that's good.
No.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Can anyone explain this?
You couldn't tip a waitress.
What does that mean?
Did you predict the result of the game?
Not that. If you were listening earlier, Dano, we mentioned a couple of fun Scottish place names in the introduction. You know, the way sometimes we do like the educating Dano thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a go at saying this one?
Ecclefeckin? Ecclefeckin? I don't know. Ecclefeckin.
Pretty close.
I don't know.
Yes, that's correct. Ecclefeckin, right, Steve?
That's right. Yeah, Ecclefeckin's a very famous place because you drive right past it on the M74 on the way down to England, heading out of Scotland. So Ecclefeckin's right on the side of that road, but fantastic name.
And what about this one, Dano?
Milngavie?
Sounds like somewhere I would live, but
Milfgavie.
Milfgavie, yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen?
Yeah, that's Milngavie.
Milngavie.
Milngavie, yes, a very, very well-to-do suburb in the north end of Glasgow. So, and probably that is the type of place you would live, Gav, because it's very, very posh. Upperly mobile people all live there.
Right.
Haha, joke, Gav. You mentioned tip.
Just the tip.
Did I?
Tipperary.
Definitely.
It's a long way to Tipperary.
All right. Well, Peg Leg Lonergan comes in with keep calm and carry on. I mean, we're carrying on. We're keeping calm. But things aren't good at the moment. We desperately need to see a change, a turn in playing style, results.
Yeah.
Because the alternative could be very grim.
Let's keep in mind that before the Ross County game, we just came off a run of 6 consecutive wins, including beating the bad guys. So, you know, all it takes is one big performance, and you can get us back in the straight and narrow again. A couple of weeks' time, Maeda. I mean, I don't know if Maeda will be back in time for the game on Wednesday night. If he is, he goes straight back into the team for me. And then in a few weeks' time, Cameron Carter-Vickers is back, and these things might be momentum swingers for us. And then Hatate back in the team right at the end of the season. So it's not all doom and gloom yet. I think we had a chat when we were 8 points ahead, and a couple of guys had said they thought the title was over at that point. And I said it wasn't because it was too early in the season. And I still think it's too early for us to be writing off this year. And we are still top of the league, although they've got a chance to do something about that this week. So not all doom and gloom, but certainly some challenges ahead.
Yeah.
Well, such is life.
Neil Warnock will get a result. New manager bounce for Aberdeen. It'll be 1 each. And we'll beat Hibs 4-1.
You heard it here first, folks. Come
4-1.
back after that reality unfolds and thank us for cheering you up. All right, everyone. Take it easy. See you all on Thursday.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.